What's your current assessment of the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir, sir?
At the outset, my tributes to the martyrs and the brave officers and soldiers of the valiant Indian Army. Every single policeman and policewoman of Jammu and Kashmir Police grieves, and they are determined that shoulder to shoulder they would fight and avenge and make the enemy and the perpetrators pay a very heavy price. Coming to the assessment part of it, the adversary is taking advantage of a distinct advantage which he has in terms of topography. As I have been saying elsewhere, numbers are limited. The groups of four, in sizes of four, in 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 groups, which they have managed to infiltrate and seeing the gaps. But we continue to have the upper hand. This loss is certainly regrettable and it's unfortunate. But having said this, the shelf life of the terrorists in Jammu province is very limited. See, what happens is that the Jammu province in terms of area is almost 2.5 times than Kashmir. And it doesn't have a flat land. The entire district of Doda, Kishtwar, Ramban and vast stretches of Udhampur, Rajouri, Puj, absolutely hilly and mountainous. Very, very, not mountainous in the ordinary sense of the term, but the Himalayan, great Western Himalayan mountain sub-ranges are there. Now, what happens is for 3 to 4 months, usually the upper reaches, which are otherwise snow-clad, opens up vast stretches of forest and broken land, opens up, and villagers from distant parts, they migrate to these places and stay there in very temporary hotbeds. It is this place where they are hiding, these forests, and they manage to get their food at gunpoint and then go back to the mountains. So they know that this is a small stretch of about 3 to 4 months. So they have been inducted in a special operation kind of a thing by the adversary, in which it's like operating beyond the enemy line. So 25-30 odd chaps, heavily armed, and I can tell you that the information flow is also very good. There is absolutely no support base in the nature of a separatist movement in Jammu. So therefore, that actually is our strength. That continues to be in our favor. As I talk to you, if you go to any village in Doda or in Kishtwar, Ramban or Udhampur, you would find that the villagers, starting across religion, they would come on. They have been extending support. They are praying for, they are pleading for more village defense groups to arm themselves and fight along with us. So therefore, to have a kind of a feeling that as if we are not in control is actually not true. So therefore, that actually is the overall background in which we are operating, and some of the details obviously cannot be discussed as to how we plan to take on the terrorists and deny them the advantages which nature and topography is giving them.
My question to you was, sir, that we've lost about 9 bravehearts in the last 2-3 weeks. We've got 48 soldiers in the last, across the forces, 48 bravehearts in 32 months. Some things happening which should not happen. Have you been able to identify why? How are they able to get behind enemy lines?
Well, as I said, that the Jammu region has a very different kind of a terrain and topography, and by using certain select, old narcotics smugglers and certain limited OGW structures, they have managed to breach our infiltration, anti-infiltration or the border and the LOC, but they're very limited in number, as I have been saying. But yes, the losses they have been able to cause is essentially because of the terrain. Now, the information gap between the information and the action is something which we are working, and we're working very fast, and we are devising the mechanisms whereby the information flow from the common villages is converted into action. Now, these are certain operational details. You see, in between 1995 to 2006, almost for 10 and 11 years, this kind of terrorism was propped up by the adversary, the Pakistani side in Jammu region. In these very places where we are now talking of, the Rajouri, Poonch and stretches of Riyasi and Doda, Kathua, Udhampur, all of these places, in this stretch of about 10 to 12 years, they had truly there have been large number of massacres of the community specific massacres have taken place. But you see, we tried to get our act together there, and over a period of time, when it was crushed and when it was eliminated for good, with the help of a very well-oiled, coordinated structure of village defense groups, special police officers recruited by the J&K police, assisted by operating base camps at heights. We had, over a period of time, we abandoned them, we vacated them because of changed situations. Now we are trying to do something better. So this gap which they have found is something which they would find it very fast changing against them. And it is only a question of time that before the summer ends, they would be actually seeing a very, very different scenario against them.
Where we look forward to that, sir. But I just quickly want to understand, what's the adversary's thought here? Why have they chosen this region or this theatre for their action? And is there a cause for concern that they are getting perhaps insider support, OGWs? Are they present in this Jammu region?
Well, there are two parts to your question, Anand. One is, of course, you said as to why Jammu. Well, you see, it's only an assessment. I mean, there will be other agencies who would be specialists in really finding out hard evidence to it. But the incidental and the collateral evidence that one has with Jammu and Kashmir police suggests that, you see, very successfully the terror ecosystem was dealt with in Kashmir, in which the recruitment fell, the local support base dwindled very dramatically, and both in terms of street violence and ability of the terror networks to be able to carry out incidents also dramatically came down. Naturally, where here the situation is two things they are counting, two things they have factored. The enemy has factored two things in our assessment. One is the terrain, and the second is the demography. We have a mixed population. We have in several districts we have a combination of both communities, and they think that they would try to create a situation of a inter-community relationship, creating additional challenges for the Indian state. Now, this is something where the J&K police, because of its own composite strength, and we are certain, I'm absolutely sure that just this terrain factor and this 3 or 4 months of window, that the heights are open, the grasslands are open, vast ridges, tens and hundreds of kilometers of forest land and broken land where people have gone off. They would all come back to their villages by October end. That is the end of it, So what we intend to do is, but then in this very 3, 4 or 5 months, we would change our tactics of movement and operations. We are in close dialogue with our army partner and our CAPF partner, and some of it cannot obviously be discussed in open forum. Having said that, what I'm suggesting is, the second part to the question is that what is the extent of the support base? I can say it with authority and with absolute honesty that it is nothing anywhere close to Kashmir in terms of, there is no separatist feeling as such. You see, there are criminal elements who are in lieu of money, like any large society, you would find moles who would accept money. There are, especially because it's a border area, and there have been instances of long smuggling routes are there, and recent times they have switched over to narcotics as a measure, and the convergence of narcotics and terrorism in terms of funding of terrorism has come about. So those channels have been activated, and those channels, there are very few and far between, they have been activated, so that we accept that there is a limited OGW kind of a thing. But the popular support is something which is absolutely not there. So we will leverage our popular public support in favor of us. We will leverage our village defense groups. We intend to strengthen them across the length and breadth. And we would like to arm them better with better weaponry and co-opt them. And of course, together, a very well-oiled structure would be there when the information flow and the action thereof in a manner in which the surprise which they are having now because of the height, because of the mountains, and because of the people having gone up there for these 4 months of temporary grazing and yes, so that advantage to them we are certainly going to squeeze and make them fall into our net.
Sir, I know you're in the thick of things, so my final question to you is that the Supreme Court has given a deadline of 30th of September, and that responsibility rests in terms of providing security on the shoulders of the Jammu and Kashmir police along with the CAPF and the army for the assembly elections to be conducted. Is there a worry there, or do you believe that this is a blip?
You see, I mean, when it comes to elections, we have already demonstrated that in the parliamentary elections, we have been able to ensure that the security not only to the candidates but to the voters and to the hardware and the software of the entire electoral process was provided for. And we are determined about that. And when it comes to holding of the assembly elections, similar kind of synergy and similar kind of mobilizations and similar kind of activations of the SOPs will be there, in which there will be absolutely no quarter left to anyone to fiddle with this process. So ability of the enemy to cause a loss over 10,000 feet high in a mountain area which is temporarily open for grasslands is something which if they are, I mean, that situation will certainly not happen in the habitation centers and the villages, and will certainly not allow anyone to disrupt the election process.
So how soon before we start striking back and start counting their bodies?